This week we've come to a garden that's just been planted up. The brief with this garden was to create a low maintenance space where different parts of the garden could be used at different times of the day. We've created a shady area down at the bottom of the garden which was really never used. There was an old greenhouse here before and it was just quite a derelict, dull space. So we've put this walkway through these lovely ferns and we've dotted silver birch right throughout the garden just to give it some cohesion. And at night those silver birches are uplit and you get the fantastic white bark sparkling through. We've painted this back fence in black and that's to help it to recede into the background, and hopefully the trees that you can see behind, once these plants grow up, will all merge together, and that's what we use in design terms as called borrowing the landscape. Thanks for joining us again this week, Dawn. I see you're looking at the planting plan. Every design that we do for a garden, we always do a planting plan with it, and it's a really important tool. It's almost like paint by numbers, so when the guys come to do the landscaping, they can place out the plants and it all kind of looks as it's supposed to look. And I noticed that there's quite a lot of Physocarpus diavolo in this plan, which is intentional because there's a lot of green on the boundaries, and it's one of the plants that you've got in your garden, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right, Lee. This one's Physocarpus opalifolius diabolo. I really love what you've done here. I've used it with the Acuba and the Fatsia japonica. This is going to look really nice in a few years' time when it's grown quite large, quite architectural. Especially like this Acuba, japonica roseanne. It has red berries through the winter. That's going to be lovely. And this will look like Helleborus orientalis, is it, Lee?
Yeah, that's right.
That's going to be really nice, like a shady kind of an area, isn't it?
This shady area of the garden does get the last bit of the day's sun, but these plants will be quite happy with that. They'll quite enjoy it. As we move further down the garden, we move out of that shady area and we move into a much sunnier position. This is actually south facing, and the west of the sun in this area at night is a really, really nice place to sit and have a glass of wine when you come home from work. The lawn, which has just been laid in midsummer, is not a great time to lay a lawn, so we are going to need to water that, and I'm going to go and do that now. If you've laid turf at this time of year and it's really warm, you will need to water it probably twice a day for about half an hour, first thing in the morning and last thing at night. And do that for a period of 2 weeks, and once the lush growth comes through, you'll know it's rooted. And at that point you can begin to cut it just by taking the very tip off and lower the blades progressively over the next few weeks. Although looking at the weather forecast, I don't think you're going to have to worry about using the sprinkler. It's also really important to make sure that you water newly planted specimens, especially when you've planted them in midsummer, because they're going to be really thirsty, and in the containers that they were grown in the garden centre, they're going to have been used to regular small amounts of water. The small plants that we've put in this garden now are not really best viewed from here or from here, but the very best place to view the garden is from down here. That's only a temporary thing, because as soon as the plants start to grow and the trees develop and the height increases in the garden, you'll get that effect of different rooms being created throughout this space, and it will really make the space feel much, much bigger. But that's about all we've got time for this week. But before you go, I just want to show you one last designer trick. And that trick is focal points. We've used one at the end of this path as a focal point when you're coming up this path and leads you on to the next one. And the use of vistas in this way is a very traditional way of getting your visitor to the garden from one section to the next. Join us next week when we'll be meeting with a landscaper who's going to show us how to lay a patio. But until then, have a great gardening week.